Hey everyone, welcome to this lunar eclipse sidereal astrology forecast for the lunar eclipse on May 15th and 16th, 2022. All right, so we have a lunar eclipse in Libra. If you were expecting me to say Scorpio just then, be sure to check out the link down below for more information. We are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology, and so the signs do change. All right, so lunar eclipse. First of all, what is that? It is a full moon that is happening next to one of the nodes, one of the life path parts of the chart, where the path, of course, of the sun and moon intersect. So lunar eclipses are always a time of awareness, of insight, of where we're gaining new perspective on things. And in this case, it's next to the south node, which deals a lot with past, or if you believe in it, past lives. And so it is an energy to be aware of with the lunar eclipse, of what is coming in. Again, past energy. This is yin, so it's really stuff that's more determined. It's outside of our control, but we can be aware of it, and we can allow and facilitate that releasing process, because the south node, again, the path behind us, is very much about releasing karmic energy by being aware of it, by accepting it, by letting it pass through, and again, taking that more yin approach. And in this way, we become more empowered, more free, more healed, more transformed as a result. Now, this is in Libra, so it is all about, collectively about balance in our lives, incorporating more balance in our lives, where things out of balance that could be brought back into balance, and oftentimes with interpersonal relationships, agreements, relationships, coming to agreement, things like this, coming in for that resolution as well. So Libra, the scale is all about bringing things back into balance, both personally and interpersonally. So with this lunar eclipse, we do have an opposition up to that Mercury retrograde. It's an important time, of course, to be flexible, learn, be adaptive right now with that retrograde Mercury. Also squaring up to Saturn, so there is some maybe patience, resilience, perseverance we can challenge ourselves with, maybe incorporating some discipline perhaps. And there is a very nice trine between the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction we've had this year, which is giving us a bit of maybe free-spiritedness with this lunar eclipse, also a bit of receptivity with that Neptune, and Mars is close right now, so maybe some fire, some action, but that action being implemented towards more soul-fulfilling things, and maybe a little more behind the scenes, because it's Mars is in the water sign of Pisces next to Neptune, so it is a little bit more of that, sometimes letting go or taking a more receptive approach to getting things done or asserting ourselves. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the chart for the lunar eclipse. So yeah, the lunar eclipse will be late Sunday, May 15th to early Monday, May 16th. And for all intents and purposes, it will be both of those days. We typically do feel these eclipse energies, or really all new and full moon energies, usually a few days before and a few days after, and especially when it's an important full moon like this, where it's next to the nodes. It is an eclipse, so very important life path changes. So before we get started, of course, as you can see here, we are using the actual size of the constellations, which is how they're seen in the visible sky. You're maybe used to, if you're used to mainstream, you might be used to all the signs being in even 30 degrees, but that's not how they are in the sky. So this is true sidereal astrology, and it does change the signs, which is why if you're listening to mainstream astrology, they're saying it's in Scorpio, when in fact it is in the constellation of Libra. So again, if you are new, definitely check out that link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so let's go ahead and break down this eclipse. So first of all, what is an eclipse? Again, it is that full moon energy. Full moons are the halfway point of the cycle. Now this is both of the monthly cycle, of the lunar cycle, and also the yearly cycle of the solar cycle. And so the halfway point is often a time of making shifts and changes, of doing a status check, seeing how things are, right? And again, it's not so mental, especially not with this south node in, being a south node lunar eclipse. There is this more yin energy. This is more about awareness, mindfulness, accepting, making peace with things with that South Node, resolving karma, releasing things that come up, right? It can be very deep, very intense. There can be literally things from our past, or people from our past, or situations from our past. Most fundamentally it's our own past patterns. And this is what we mean to say by karmic resolution. Karma not being bad, but just karma of where we built a lot of energy from past or past life that has now become a pattern. And, it's our comfort zone. It is comfortable, it is our pattern, but it also does not facilitate our growth when it comes to these patterns that we can become aware of with the South Node. These are things that are no longer serving us, or things that are just outworn in terms of these patterns, and maybe even, quote unquote, challenging things, or quote unquote, negative things, things that are just unhealthy or imbalanced rather, right? And this is especially the case with the lunar eclipse being in Libra, which is really much exposing and helping us see collectively, personally, where things might be out of balance. So halfway point of the cycle, to be aware, mindful of what are these patterns that we have. Again, maybe more unconscious. The patterns are definitely unconscious, more unconscious. But again, the mindfulness, the awareness can help us become a little bit more attuned to that, a little bit more aware of that. And an interesting thing happens is that this isn't just about releasing energy. Where there's endings, there's always new beginnings. And so the South Node, eclipses, and the South Node in general deals very much with now resolving these imbalances to where then we start to incorporate the healthy expressions of those energies, right? Because the unhealthy imbalances are there, but these are still a part of us, or a part of life that can then be recalibrated, rebalanced into the healthy expression. And so with that mindfulness of releasing the energy, the patterns, the karma, let's say, as a result, there is a shift with the, again, halfway point of the cycle. There's shifts and pivots of now how can we incorporate these gifts, these talents, these energies from past or past life in a way that are much more constructive, right? And again, in Libra, collectively, it will likely have to do with where we can be more balanced in our life. And if it's interpersonal, it might be where we can have more, perhaps, healthy cooperation, coming to agreements, more perhaps non-attachment in relationships, be willing to come, to the middle ground, to see eye to eye, things of this nature, right? To bring things, most importantly, back into balance within. But of course, there can also be external things, and the external of Libra is oftentimes those interpersonal relationships, which you could see it that, relationships, dealing with others, is the same way we deal with ourselves, right? The relationship we have with others is often very much the type of relationship we have with the different parts of life and the different parts of ourselves. So it's really just the mirror, or the external, representation of what's already going on internally. And of course, lunar eclipses, again, being very spiritual times, it's very important for it already to be an internal process, that through the internal, awareness, clearing, shifts, and rebirth, also comes the external, will happen more automatically and just naturally, right? So all in all, halfway point of the cycle, anything from the short term of the past 2 weeks that has been new energy in your life, this is a great time to do a status check there. Again, maybe make some shifts and changes along that life path. But of course, being an eclipse is very important in the yearly cycle. So roughly 6 months ago, when we had the last set of eclipses, the last eclipse season, we set off onto a new journey with that solar eclipse and all that energy. So anything from the past 6 months that we can also do a status check with, make some readjustments with, again, most importantly, internally and spiritually, and having to do with releasing, clearing, bringing things back into balance, is a fantastic way of working with this lunar eclipse. Now, of course, with all lunar eclipses, all full moons, there is the balance point, which is the opposite constellation. And in this case, it's Taurus. This part of Taurus anyways, this early part of Taurus, opposes up to Libra. And so the opposite energy of this part of Libra is this part of Taurus, which deals very much with staying grounded, right? That in order to bring things back into balance in our life generally, it's very important that we also maintain our stability, our resourcefulness, our self-reliance, our inner self-worth, self-value, and especially during transformative times, because again, the South Node is very challenging. It's very, transformational. And so what helps us, stay balanced during transformational times is being grounded. It's a great time for connecting to nature, having some good comforts or some abundance around us, to cultivate not only the external abundance, but most importantly, internal abundance of self-value, self-worth, resourcefulness, steadiness, inner strength, groundedness, right? This helps facilitate these types of time periods. So, of course, good to balance that energy in our lives as well. Now, the opposition is to that Mercury retrograde. So it really is, now keep in mind, Mercury is always very close to the sun, always operating next to the sun. So it's very common to have, Mercury as part of the lunar cycle. So something major here. But I would say this is more of like a reminder that Mercury is retrograde, that it's supposed to be a time of trying new things, being adaptive, and in Taurus, re-examining our values. What is it that we really value in life and enjoy? And again, maybe reconnecting to those inner strengths, those inner values with Mercury in Taurus. Now, there is a very slight opposition up to Uranus in Aries. I would say also as a reminder that really these past few years has been very good to reconnect with our individual self-expression, to be open to change. That, while there is a lot of Taurus energy and Pisces, which is very yin right now collectively, there is still this kind of fire lingering in the background, let's say, with Mars over Neptune as well, I'll talk about, that can be implemented. And in this case, listening to our excitement, doing things that are more freeing in our life, feel more liberating, more, in touch with our true self, could also be great to balance during this lunar eclipse. All right. Now, the other aspects, and they are still important, is there's a square up to Saturn, who's still in Capricorn. And so the challenge, there's obviously other challenges we just discussed, but one of the challenges with this lunar eclipse is on incorporating the Saturn qualities, which is usually perseverance, discipline, patience, responsibility, right? These things that deal with the long term, things that are typically good for us in the long term than just the short term, right? These responsible, grounding, strength of character types of energies. And so good to challenge ourselves with that. The lunar eclipse, with whatever the shifts and changes are, with whatever is getting readjusted, there's likely needing that intention and that challenge to incorporate some of that discipline, patience, responsibility, but it becomes very constructive time to do so. And in that way, Saturn can certainly support this eclipse. Now, where the support is more easily is with this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction we've had this year. This conjunction went exact last month, mid-April. And so this energy has been helping us all collectively go more with the flow, be more receptive, be willing to do things that are more important to us on a soul level in life. Let go of things, be more receptive, be more in tune to the present moment, and follow those soul guidances. And so that's very much supporting this. Anything that is about more receptivity in our life or doing things more soul-fulfilling in our life, very much supported with this lunar eclipse, with this trine. And Mars is also here, and this is what I meant about that kind of fire energy operating in the background, is that now with Mars and Pisces, the best way to take action, to implement that fire, is towards the more soul-fulfilling things, is in a more receptive way. Sometimes inaction is the best action. Sometimes taking a step back is needed. If we try to pursue goals, drives, and desires that are just, not the time for, or we're just not really into it, we can feel confused, we can feel lost, we can really drain our energy, feel lower energy. All right, so these are good indications that where we're putting our energy may not be the time or the way, or really what we really enjoy on a soul level, right? Or what we really need on a soul level. So then it's about taking that step back, living a little more in that present moment, seeing where that flow is, and putting energy towards that. And then in that way, we gain more energy, we have more vigor, more fire with Mars when it is geared towards more of these soul-fulfilling things, or spiritual things, or creative things, spiritually fulfilling things, when Mars is in Pisces conjunct Neptune like this. All right. But that energy is supporting this lunar eclipse. All right. And then very minorly, there's a sextile to Pluto. I probably wouldn't even talk about it because there's more important things going on. But just know there is some empowerment. There is support from Pluto, planet of transformation and change. Okay. So that is the lunar eclipse in a nutshell. What I would say most importantly, it's a time of listening. It's a very spiritual time, right? The inner life is, and karmic and spiritual life is being illuminated, right? For us to be aware of it, our inner selves, our patterns. With the South Node, maybe in Libra, maybe imbalances, karmic energy, comfort zones, patterns, defaults, unconscious behaviors that we can attune to, be aware of, and really just simply by being aware of it is really oftentimes all that is quote unquote needed for the South Node, is simply that awareness. Once something is unconscious and we shine some light on it, where that light shines is no longer unconscious. And then it starts to, and often does, operate much more balanced, much more healthfully, and things like that. But from this, again, it could be situations, things from the past for that resolution. Sometimes we just have to go through the motions, kind of resolves itself, as I've been saying, but with, of course, mindfulness and awareness. And then in that way, then shifts and changes along the life path for the remainder of the lunar cycle, the next 2 weeks, and also really for the next 6 months until we come up to the next eclipse season. So, of course, important to be grounded at this time of the year. Sun and Mercury in Taurus, the bull, the inner resources, the steadiness, and connecting those external resources like nature, abundance, things like that. Be flexible with that Mercury retrograde. Very important right now. It's good to work on some patience, some discipline intentionally with that Saturn, but at the same time, being receptive and making sure that wherever we are putting our action and our energy is towards really what is important to us on a soul level, or a little more peaceful, a little more present, with this watery trine supporting this eclipse. All right, so everyone, have a fantastic lunar eclipse. Thank you so much for watching and all of your support with this channel. If you haven't yet signed up for MTZ Insiders, it is a free newsletter where you do get these videos released before YouTube and also extra content not normally released on YouTube. So if you are not yet signed up, definitely check that out. There's a link down below in the comment section. But have a great lunar eclipse, everyone. Thank you again, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.